All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for a Wellbeing Connection class. My name is Charlotte Scheid, and I'm one of the Giant Company dietitians. And we have a special guest speaker today, who is Megan Dixon. She is one of our pharmacists at the Giant Company, and we're super excited to have her here today for this class. So for this September series for the Wellbeing Connection, we are going to focus all on immune health, which is very important this time of year. It's really great to build our immune systems because all the germ sicknesses are on its way. So we're going to be focusing on that, and more specifically for today's class, we are going to be focusing all on about aging, so the older adult, and really building that immune health, which is very important. So the agenda for today. So what we're going to be be talking about. So first, just a general overview of immune health and aging, some key nutrition strategies for a healthy immune system, some lifestyle factors that come into play, a few practical tips for older adults, and then Megan's going to talk a little bit more about supplements, some vaccine recommendations, and then we're going to be doing a Q&A, and then at the very end, a special announcement, so you don't want to miss that. So let's get into just a general overview of immune health and aging. All right. So, what is the immune system? For those of you who, I'm sure we all know what the immune system is and what does it do. So, the immune system is the body's defense systems or defense team. It protects the body against germs that can make you sick, bacteria, viruses, and it helps the body repair when it gets hurt as well. So, if we get a cut, helps us to repair that cut and to make us better. But as we age, for those of you who are older adults or who are, I guess we're all aging, but for older adults, the immune system naturally changes. Maybe if we have a cold, it takes us longer for us to feel a little bit better, or whatever virus that we have. So as we age, our immune systems definitely change. We may have a slower response to infections and then more inflammation. But the good news is that there are ways to strengthen the immune system as we get older, which we'll be talking all about today, through nutrition, supplements, and vaccinations as well. So some key nutrition strategies to think about if we're trying to build up our immune system. First is to incorporate protein. So this can be things like chicken, fish, tuna, Greek yogurt, eggs, lentils, nuts, and seeds, whatever that you like. Definitely try to incorporate protein each day. This helps to support antibody production and also helps us with wound healing and recovery. It's always a good idea with meals and with each snack, try to incorporate some protein. We also want to have foods that have certain types of vitamins and minerals. So these are just three here. There's a lot more also that are supportive of immune health. But the first one being vitamin C, which I'm sure all of us have heard of before with vitamin C. So this helps to support production of white blood cells. So things like oranges, strawberries, bell peppers are a good source, broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Also, vitamin D. So a lot of times we do not get enough vitamin D, but vitamin D is important, helps to regulate our immune cell activity. So sources of that, so there's not a ton of food sources of vitamin D, but for the ones, if anybody attended the class yesterday, we talked all about mushrooms, and mushrooms are definitely a good source of vitamin D, but things like salmon, tuna, some fortified products, with milk and orange juice, and then of course mushrooms. Then we have zinc. So zinc is essential for immune cell development. So pumpkin seeds, beef, chicken, turkey, egg, to name a few of the sources of zinc. So always want to incorporate foods with those vitamins and minerals to keep our immune system strong. Also, to think about healthy fats as well. So unsaturated fats, so our monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and omega-3 fatty acids. So this helps to build strong cell membranes, can help to reduce inflammation, also aids in nutrient absorption, and is really supportive of gut health, which we'll talk a little bit about gut health in a few slides. So our sources, chia seeds, which have become kind of popular to put in different types of recipes, avocados. I know in our house we love our avocados, but that's a great source of healthy fat, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon, walnuts, and hemp seeds, to name a few food sources of those healthy fats. But again, some strategies, definitely incorporate protein, incorporate foods with these vitamins and minerals, and then healthy fats. So let's talk a little bit about more key nutrition strategies. So also, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about gut health and maybe the immune system, But we also, when we're talking about immune health, to focus on gut health, because actually gut health and immunity are deeply connected, and 70% of the body's immune cells live in the gut. So that gut microbiome, a lot of different research going on how everything's connected, which is super interesting. But the gut lining helps to keep those harmful germs out while allowing beneficial nutrients in. So we want to keep that barrier really strong. And the diverse gut microbiome helps to prevent infections and also balances immune responses as well. So again, when we're thinking about the immune system, always think about the gut. So foods for gut and immune support, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of these, but like probiotic foods. So this can be yogurt with live and active cultures, kefir, if we're talking about prebiotic foods, which kind of act as food for the healthy bacteria in the gut. So things like bananas and oats, garlic's a good one, onions, leeks, beans, and apples, which are coming into season. And then our fiber-rich foods as well. Fiber is really beneficial for that gut microbiome and bacteria. So whole grains, legumes, and then fruits and vegetables. And of course, healthy fats as well, being supportive for that gut. So it helps to reduce gut inflammation. So when we're thinking about key nutrition strategies for immune health, definitely focus on these. And I just wanted to just show some products for immune health. If you've already not seen these in stores, but salmon, so being a good source of that healthy fat. So these are the individual salmons that are really nice if you're pulling them out for a sheet pan meal. That's a good one. I always keep this trail mix in either my purse or my car, but these omega-3. So it's a blend of almonds, walnuts, and pistachios. That's a good one just to have on the go, but really helps incorporate some fiber and then healthy fats. We have our Nature's Promise chia seeds. Frozen strawberries, which you can use any time of the year, but that's a good source of vitamin C. We have our whole milk yogurt, the vanilla, or you can get the plain, but that's a good source of the probiotics. And then some other ones down here with the broccoli and eggs, some quinoa for fiber, pumpkin seeds you can throw in a parfait or whatnot, some garbanzo beans or chickpeas, which is a good source of fiber to really benefit that gut microbiome, and then chicken as well, the individual portion. So we're thinking about products and immune health, and next time in store, definitely you can check these out. And of course, there's a lot more to look at too, but definitely keep these ones in mind. And some lifestyle factors to think about when we want to be supportive of our immune health. So definitely stay hydrated with water. Sometimes I think it's really hard or can be hard to stay hydrated with water, but if you want to kind of switch it up to make things more flavorful, definitely consider to infuse water with some produce or herbs. If you're kind of getting stuck in a rut and kind of getting sick of water, there's many different ways to make it taste very flavorful. Also to keep in mind about physical activity, definitely try at least even like 15 minutes a day at just some type of aerobic activity like walking, and also with 2 days of strength training, or at least 1 to 2 days of strength training, keeping those muscles strong. Sleep is something to consider too. I think sometimes sleep gets kind of put on the back burner, but sleep is definitely important for us. So aim for at least 7 hours a night. Stress management, also something to consider. So definitely set aside times for activities that you enjoy. So things like reading or gardening or hiking, or some type of meditation or being mindful is always good for stress management as well. But always keep that in mind, trying to build up our immune health. Keeping up to date on vaccinations and then preventive care. So Megan's going to talk a little bit about that, but that's also important, or just scheduling regular visits with your primary care provider, and also avoiding some immune weakening habits. So if we are consuming excess of alcohol, or if we're a smoker, having a lot of added sugar in our diet, these can all be factors that can affect our immune health. So definitely thinking about some lifestyle factors. And just some practical tips for older adults, like what I was talking about with protein. Definitely aim for protein at each meal, and definitely try to as well with each snack. Color our plate with fruits and vegetables daily. We have a lot of fruit and vegetables that are in season right now, so they taste super delicious. So definitely a good time to do that. Add a probiotic and prebiotic food just a few times a week to start, or even just once a week if you can. Stay consistent with hydration, just trying to drink throughout the day. And also maybe, and we didn't touch too much on this, and this could be a whole other topic, but incorporating spices like garlic or turmeric and ginger, those have also a lot of different immune benefits as well. So just some tips for older adults with trying to keep our immune systems healthy. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Megan, and she's going to talk a little bit about vaccinations and supplements. So Megan, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me today, everybody. I'm happy to talk about, pharmacy related immunity health and what pharmacists can help you either, guide through questions or dosing and or provide you with vaccines. So with that, we'll dive into supplements, I believe. Yep, supplements. So Charlotte gave a great overview of where you can get supplements from your diet. However, not all of us are able to get sometimes enough of those supplements in our regular diet. So we have over the counter supplements that can kind of help boost us if needed. So we'll start with vitamin C. That's a huge one when it comes to respiratory season and colds and all of that fun stuff. So, as Charlotte had gone over, vitamin C does help support our immune system, maintain healthy skin, helps in collagen production, and also increases the absorption of iron, which is really important for our blood cells and for our body to function appropriately. So the body does not store vitamin C. So you can't overdo it. I mean, you can overdo it, but you can't overdo it in a way that would necessarily hurt anything. And it doesn't produce it on its own. So it is something that we 100% need to be getting from either our diet or taking that extra supplement on the side. We have to replenish our daily needs, again, via diet or taking those supplements. So there are certain patient populations, those who smoke or are pregnant and or nursing, that may need a little bit more vitamin C than the average person. And you'll see typical doses range. There's a huge variety out there when you're reading boxes and bottles. You'll see anything from 100 milligrams to 1,500 milligrams, just depending on if you're taking a tablet, a chewable, there's lozenges, there's a whole bunch out there. So depending on how you're taking it will depend on how your body absorbs it. So the dose may differ. There are common side effects, especially if you overdo it. So if you are taking too much vitamin C, you may get a very upset stomach, some diarrhea, or even throwing up. So you can tell when you're overdoing it with vitamin C or if you've taken too much. It is best taken with a meal. Some patients or individuals have a little bit more of a sensitive stomach than others. So if you know that you're one of those people that things tend to bother your stomach, just make sure if you're taking a vitamin supplement that you're eating with it. And does it really work? Does it prevent cough and colds and all of those things? So studies in the data have shown that it doesn't prevent colds or illnesses when you take it as a daily supplement. However, if you take it as a daily supplement or take it when you're not feeling super great, it can reduce the duration and or severity of colds. So it may help, shorten it or make it not as bad as it could be, which is a plus. So always a positive. And plus, you need it for a bunch of other things in your body. So it's always good to take. An additional supplement that you hear a lot about and is in a lot of immune health products is zinc. So zinc is an essential nutrient and trace mineral. It can also help support healthy skin, wound healing, as well as providing the body with antioxidant support to protect our cells from something called oxidative stress. So the antioxidant activity helps to support our natural immune defenses that we have going on in our body and are good for immune cell production in our body. So we can get zinc, as Charlotte had gone over, from plenty of places in our diet, but there are some people, again, who just can't get enough of it through food. And therefore, we do have zinc supplements. So as a supplement, there is no quote max dosing according to any prescribing information out there. However, dosing is typically individualized on a patient or person's clinical conditions, their nutritional requirements, and any kind of contribution of dietary zinc through your foods. So if you're somebody who's eating enough of those food groups, you may not need to take any zinc supplement. But if you have certain medical conditions and absorption issues in your gut, you may be somebody who needs a little bit of extra help. So always talk to your primary care provider before starting to take zinc or even vitamin C for that matter, or vitamin D or anything like that. You want to make sure you're never overdoing something. But just make sure you consult, make sure they're okay, and they'll typically give you a dose to start with. A typical dose of zinc is in the form of zinc sulfate. So it comes in a couple different forms, but zinc sulfate, you'll see a 50 milligram once daily tablet out there on the vitamin shelves, and that has about 23% of like elemental zinc in it. So that's a typical dose that you'll see though. Common side effects with zinc. Again, we see that nausea and upset stomach. So, very common. It can cause gastric distress, vomiting, and loss of appetite. So, we see that upset stomach with zinc, as well as dizziness and headaches, too. So, that's also associated with taking zinc. They're typically associated with taking too much zinc. So, again, your body will tell you if you're overdoing it, which is a good thing. Like, we like to see that, and it's typically only if you're taking too much for a prolonged period of time. Again, some individuals are a little bit more sensitive than others. So you could take one dose and be, oof, that hurt my stomach or anything like that. So if that is the case and you are somebody who may need the supplement and aren't getting enough from our regular diets, then just make sure to take it with food on the side, and that'll help some of the gastric distress or upset stomach that we get from it. The again, does it really work? So, studies and data have shown supplementation with zinc may have little to no effect again on preventing colds, but may reduce the duration of ongoing colds. So, a lot of times you'll see zinc in products such as Zicam, Coldies, or things like that, that you want to start as soon as you have the onset of symptoms of cold. So, 24, 48 hours, that you'll start right away, and you'll continue to take it as the directions on that product, through the duration until you feel better. So there are a ton of different dosage forms to choose from. No guidance on which is best to use in the studies. So always an option there though. So again, supplements in general, what do guidelines say? No clear evidence that vitamins, herbs, spices, anything, homeopathic truly prevents coughs, colds, flus, anything like that. So, best to do your regular hand hygiene, social distancing if you're not feeling good. Don't share your germs with others. Stay home when you're sick, all of that fun stuff, in a supplement form. However, we do have preventative vaccines that can help, and studies have shown that they are effective. So, just a general slide here on immunization recommendations. You'll see respiratory seasonal vaccines. We always hear about flu and COVID. Other respiratory routine vaccines that you don't need every season, but depending on medical conditions or your age, they would be recommended. So, pneumonia and RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus. Other routine recommendations that I'm not going to talk about today in depth, but you want to make sure that you're up to date on Hep B, or hepatitis B, sorry, your shingles shots, and as well as your tetanus boosters. So we'll start with diving into flu. So who is most at risk for severe cases of the flu? Typically adults who are 65 and older. Unfortunately, our immune systems just don't work super great. And then itty bitties, I call them our little friends. So children younger than 2 years of age. So even if you're in that older than 2 and younger than 65, if you are close with any children or close with anybody who is 65 and older, it's super important that you still stay protected, so you're not exposing germs to those age groups as well. We also have patients who have certain chronic health conditions, which there's a list on the slide. I'm not going to read through it all, but this is not an all-inclusive list. So just know that this isn't just everybody, but anybody that technically has a weakened immune system or issues with their heart, lungs, kidneys, anything like that that can impair you, you're at risk for a more severe case of the flu if you were to get it. So who should get vaccinated? Everybody. 6 months of age and older, everybody should get the flu shot every season. The best time to get it is September and October. So we are here. It is officially September as of 2 days ago. So it is the time. I strongly encourage everybody within the next, 2 months, to be getting out there and getting your flu shots. And how well does it work? Because that's always the thing. Protection provided by the flu vaccine does vary season to season. So it is a prediction when we create which strains we're going to put in the shot. So it can vary how well it works in preventing, or even not so preventing, but decreasing the severity of the case of the flu that you might get. And that also depends in part on the age and health status of somebody who's getting the vaccine. So the vaccine might work better in somebody who's 15 or 16 years old than somebody who's 75 years old. That's why we have different doses of the vaccine for patients who are 65 and older. And then there's also similarity or matching between the viruses and vaccine. Like I said, it's all a prediction, and we predict in about May for the fall. So we typically do see an effectiveness of 40 to 60% with the flu, which is great for any kind of vaccine, especially when you're using, predictions a couple months out. And you may still get the cold or flu after you get the flu vaccine, but your chances of hospitalization, having severe illness, or death are dramatically reduced just from getting the shot. So, and it can't give you the flu. The flu shot cannot give you the flu. That is a myth. So you can't get sick from the shot itself. So just make sure you keep that in mind. And like I said, strongly encourage everybody to get out there and get your flu shots. Next, I think I just have one slide on COVID-19. There's a lot out there in the media right now with COVID-19, so I didn't just want to skip over it. There is much anticipated change with the latest seasonal COVID vaccines for the 2025-2026 season in terms of who it's going to be recommended for. So they were recently approved by the CDC, by the FDA. I'm so sorry. They were recently approved by the FDA for everybody 65 years and older of age, and then also those under 65 with certain health conditions, or certain physical inactivity or weight and things like that. So certain medical conditions would qualify you or make you eligible for a COVID vaccine. However, just because the FDA says one thing, the CDC doesn't always align with the FDA fully, and they may have more strict recommendations, and we're still waiting on the CDC to meet and make those decisions for us. So again, we anticipate to see at least everybody 65 years of age and older to be able to get the dose. And then again, those 12 to 64 with certain conditions may be recommended for another dose. I cannot stress enough, these are predictions, and we're still unsure what the CDC will fully recommend. So more to come over the next few weeks as things continue to unfold. For pneumococcal or pneumonia vaccines, pneumonia is an infection caused by the bacteria called Streptococcus pneumoniae. Anybody can get pneumonia. That happens in anybody, children, teens, elderly, doesn't matter your age. But some people can be at increased risk for pneumonia. So some of those risks include being 50 years of age and older, or being 19 to 49, again, with that hefty list of certain conditions, can increase your risk. We'll see any heart problems, lung problems, kidney, if you're a cigarette smoker, if you've had certain implants, if you had to get your spleen removed, anything like that, that could make you, have a little bit less of a working or functioning immune system, is going to make you more at risk for pneumonia, and you're going to want to get the shot. Next slide for me, Charlotte, please. Is it going? Perfect. Thank you. Oh, back one. Sorry, it was just taking its time. Perfect. So there are two types of pneumonia vaccines available right now in the US. We have a conjugate vaccine, which there's a couple different brands of them, but and a polysaccharide vaccine. So the most recommended that we want is one of the conjugate vaccines. They're typically once and done. So you'll get one in your lifetime, and you'll never have to get it again. So far, per recommendations, that may change in 15 years, but as of today, once and done. And if you have gotten the polysaccharide one in the past, but haven't gotten one of the conjugate ones, you can definitely still get a conjugate one to cover you for all the new strains that are in those ones. So just make sure, if you're not sure which one you've gotten, or do you need one or anything like that, make sure to talk to your pharmacy, and they'll be able to help you out and provide anything that you need for pneumonia shots. And then I believe last but not least is RSV. So RSV is a newer vaccine. And again, it covers the respiratory syncytial virus, which is a common contagious respiratory virus that usually causes mild cold-like symptoms in most individuals. Most people will recover in 1 to 2 weeks, like any other common cold, but it can be serious. And I apologize there. I have a typo in the slide there, but it can be serious. Typically, in infants and older adults, we'll see more serious cases, and they likely will require hospitalization. So RSV does tend to spread in the fall and winter. It peaks a little bit before flu season typically peaks, but that's why you'll see testing is typically flu, COVID, and RSV all together. We'll see it in December and January as flu peaks January into February. Who should get vaccinated for RSV? Everybody 75 years of age and older, as well as those 50 to 74 years of age with certain medical conditions. So, pretty much the same list of medical conditions that we see with all the other respiratory vaccines, including residency and nursing homes, though. Just close quarters. Close quarters tends to be a big flag for things to spread quicker and easier. Again, RSV is one of those things we just have once in a lifetime dose. So once and done, you just get it and then you won't need it again. And that's all I have from my side, but I'm happy to answer any questions or things that came